This is a Fox News Alert. I'm Brett Baer in Washington. Hillary Clinton has received a boost, a slight boost, following the first presidential debate with Donald Trump. That is the takeaway from brand new Fox polls releasing right now. Clinton is getting 43% support in a four-way race. That's up from 41, as you see earlier this month. Trump is steady at 40%. He is now down 3 percentage points, but still statistically tied in this poll of likely voters. But in head-to-head in this poll, Clinton has turned a 1-point deficit into a 5-point lead. When asked who won Monday's debate, almost 2/3 of the respondents said Secretary Clinton. Donald Trump is in Michigan tonight talking jobs and trade and fighting the establishment and the elitists, seeming to try to get back on track on policy. This after an early morning of continuing a social media offensive against a woman who won the Miss Universe title 20 years ago. The series of his early morning tweets has both supporters and opponents wondering about Trump's tactics. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron is with the Trump campaign tonight in Michigan.
While Donald Trump visited the Gerald Ford Presidential Library in Michigan, where a new Detroit News poll shows him trailing Hillary Clinton by 7 points, his videoed deposition in his lawsuit against 2 Latino celebrity chefs in D.C. was released. He's suing the chefs for breach of contract. Their attorney grilled Trump about his harsh rhetoric toward Hispanic immigrants. They say that's why they pulled out of the deal. Trump, in a video posted by BuzzFeed, calmly defended his incendiary immigration rhetoric.
Which is a very big topic in this country, and which is a topic that, has led to my nomination in a major party in the country. So it's not a very out there topic.
Trump's day began at 3 a.m. with a tweet storm, first blasting the media for reporting on internal campaign strife based on unnamed aides and insiders. Anytime you see a story about me or my campaign saying sources said, do not believe it. There are no sources. They are just made-up lies. Aides have urged Trump to move beyond the first debate, but the debate commission today confirmed that Trump's microphone for Inside the Hall was defective. And again today, he escalated the battle Clinton started over his treatment of women and the 1996 Miss Universe winner, Alicia Machado. At 5 a.m., Trump tweeted, quote, "Did crooked Hillary help disgusting, check out sex tape and past, Alicia M. become a U.S. citizen so she could use her in the debate?" After being Miss Universe, Machado had a run-in with the law but was exonerated. She also starred in a South American reality TV series and in one episode appeared in bed with a man. Machado became a U.S. citizen in August. While Trump hits Clinton for pay-to-play politics between the State Department and the Clinton Foundation, his own foundation finds itself in hot water. For 8 years, he's funded it with donations from other people, but never applied for the state certification needed to accept more than $25,000 a year. New York's Attorney General is investigating Trump's foundation and could halt further donations and require those over the last 8 years to be returned. Also, USA Today, which has never endorsed a presidential candidate, today urged voters to not vote for Trump, calling him unfit. Other papers did as well this week. USA Today only once before denounced a candidate, in 1992 when former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke ran for governor in Louisiana. Trump tweeted, "The people are really smart in canceling subscriptions to the Dallas and Arizona papers, and now USA Today will lose readers. The people get it." Tonight, Trump's in Novi, Michigan.
Hillary Clinton has made a living raking in donations from special interests that have raided our factories and ripped the jobs right out of Michigan and every other state. That's how she gets rich.
And Trump has a huge crowd for a mostly teleprompter speech that is one of the more blistering attacks for at least the last 40 minutes on Hillary Clinton. And he's thrown down a challenge to President Obama, asking him if he will pledge to not give a pardon to Hillary Clinton or the 5 staffers who got immunity in the email exchange. Definitely a major gauntlet tossed, even though there aren't any charges facing those individuals. Brett?
Thanks, Carl. With the new polls, let's take a look at the electoral map and see where things stand now. Remember, to win the election, you need 270 electoral votes. Right now, we have it at 201 for Hillary Clinton, 164 for Donald Trump. Now, if you take the average of polls as of tonight, even the razor-thin margin with one candidate ahead, here's how the states break down. In Arizona goes to Donald Trump. Nevada, as of tonight, average of polls goes to Donald Trump as well. Even in Colorado, there is the slimmest of leads for Donald Trump. That goes red as of tonight, as does Iowa, as does Ohio, Georgia, North Carolina, and then you turn to Hillary Clinton. She picks up Wisconsin and Michigan. Pennsylvania, as of tonight, goes to Hillary Clinton, as does New Hampshire and Virginia. The only state left, Florida. Take a look at these electoral votes, 264 to 245. There are 29 electoral votes in Florida as of tonight. And the average of recent polls, Hillary Clinton is leading, and that would give her the presidency of the United States. Now, here are some interesting numbers, and they tell you a lot about where the campaigns have been campaigning through this time since they've become nominees. Here is Ohio. There have been 12 visits to Ohio from both candidates, 8 for Donald Trump, 4 for Hillary Clinton. But Hillary Clinton hasn't been to Ohio in 25 days since Labor Day. Now here's Pennsylvania. Also 12 visits in Pennsylvania, 7 for Donald Trump, 5 for Hillary Clinton. But the biggest state visited, Florida, 14 visits, 9 for Donald Trump, 5 for Hillary Clinton. These are interesting numbers. They tell you where the campaigns have been focusing. But here is another very interesting number. That's the number of visits in key battleground states. Donald Trump, 54. Hillary Clinton, 25. More than double the visits in these key battleground states. You can see the campaigning that's been going on here. Hillary Clinton is in that key state of Florida tonight. Jennifer Griffin is with the Clinton campaign.
Good evening, Brett. Hillary Clinton just finished speaking behind us a little while ago. It was her second stop here in Florida. She started the day a little further north, where she exhibited a little bit of that cough that we had heard over Labor Day. She did not have that cough when she arrived here. Instead, she was on the offensive. She called Alicia Machado, that Miss Universe who Trump had taken to attacking overnight, in a tirade of tweets. Hillary Clinton herself responded to Trump's tweets by saying, "What kind of man stays up all night to attack a woman?" They are clearly trying to capitalize on they perceive as a mistaken attack by Trump against this Miss Universe. Miss Universe herself, Alicia Machado, who is a new citizen and plans to vote for the first time, she spoke to Hillary Clinton by phone, and she said she's looking forward to voting for the first female president. She also put out a scathing statement against Donald Trump, in which she said that he is just trying to humiliate her like he has tried to humiliate immigrants and others. So that continues. We have noticed that the Clinton campaign is also making an outreach and trying to capitalize off of a news story that came out in Newsweek and was the front page of the Miami Herald today, in which it was a story alleging that Donald Trump had broken the Cuban embargo in the 90s. That's a big deal for Cuban voters here in Florida. 2/3 of U.S. Cubans live in Florida, and we went to their favorite hangout in a coffee shop called Versailles, where Trump had campaigned just last week, and asked the older voters there, who typically vote Republican, these are Cubans, whether that news story would affect them. And most of them told us, most of them of a certain age and older, said that it would not affect their vote. They still plan to vote for Trump. But clearly the Clinton campaign trying to capitalize on this this new news story that came out in Newsweek about Donald Trump allegedly breaking the embargo, not arms embargo, the embargo, and investing some money in Cuba as he tried to figure out whether he could do business there at some point in the future. Donald Trump, of course, denies that he did that, but that's where we are right now. Florida, of course, all important with its 29 electoral votes, Brett.
Yeah, Jennifer, quickly, you mentioned Florida, and I pointed out that Hillary Clinton has traveled there. This was the 5th visit to that key battleground state. Clearly, the Clinton campaign sees some upside there, and polls have shifted a little bit in her favor in recent days. Are they making Florida really the stop in the electoral math?
It certainly looks that way. Bill Clinton will be on a bus tour through northern Florida. We know he's coming back from Israel now with the president after attending Shimon Peres' funeral. He will be on that bus tour. She's up by 4 points, according to a new Mason-Dixon poll. But again, that is still very close here in Florida. And everyone we talk to, there are the Never Clinton voters and there are the Never Trump voters, and they seem very split here.
Never something. Jennifer Griffin traveling with the Clinton campaign in Florida. Jennifer, thank you. Donald Trump has hinted he may bring up former President Bill Clinton's controversial sexual history during the next debate. Trump allies are now pointing to what Mrs. Clinton said during those 90s controversies. Correspondent Doug McKelway examines a decades-long series of scandals and the Clintons' reaction to them.
It is a nuclear option that Donald Trump mostly withheld in Monday's debate.
I was going to say something extremely rough to Hillary, to her family, and I said to myself, can't do it. I just can't do it.
But a campaign memo sent to Trump's surrogates this week reportedly encourages them to remind voters, especially millennials too young to remember, that what goes around...
This is a man who has called women pigs, slobs, and dogs.
...comes around. Trump's surrogates have quite literally gotten the memo to dredge up Mrs. Clinton's complicity in her husband's past sex scandals.
She didn't just stand by him. She attacked Monica Lewinsky.
Trump surrogate Leslie Rutledge says she did not receive a memo, but as Arkansas Attorney General is well versed in the scandals.
Hillary Clinton has spent years victimizing women who have already been victimized. And she is the one in Monday night's debate who unfortunately took the conversation to the ditch.
The Trump campaign sees a motherlode of Clinton hypocrisy in the scandals. Last December, Clinton said this about people who allege sexual assault.
I would say that everybody should be believed at first until they are disbelieved based on evidence.
Former Clinton staffer George Stephanopoulos recounted in his memoir that when bombshell reports first surfaced of the Lewinsky affair, the First Lady, quote, had to do what she had always done before: swallow her doubts, stand by her man, and savage her enemies. Close Clinton friend Diane Blair recounted in her diary that Mrs. Clinton once allegedly referred to Monica Lewinsky as a narcissistic Looney Tune. Trying to contain what the campaign called bimbo eruptions predated the White House years. In 1992, when Jennifer Flowers publicly claimed that she had an affair with then-Governor Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton described Flowers as a gold digger.
You get your picture on the front page of every newspaper, and you're some failed cabaret singer who doesn't even have much of a resume to fall back on.
When other women made allegations of sexual assault by Mr. Clinton, one of them telling her story in Penthouse magazine, Stephanopoulos recounted Mrs. Clinton saying, quote, "We have to destroy her story." Soon after, the campaign hired a private detective to look into 24 separate allegations. Asked in the post-debate spin room why he held back on the Clinton sex scandals, Trump said he had a lot of respect for Chelsea and that he didn't want to say what he was going to say. When a reporter followed up with a question, which is, Trump replied, which is maybe I'll tell you at the next debate. Brett, stay tuned.
We will. Doug, thank you. A Homeland Security official tells the Associated Press hackers have targeted the voter registration systems of more than 20 states in recent months. The FBI has already warned state officials to upgrade their security. FBI Director James Comey told lawmakers this week the agency is looking hard at Russian hackers who may try to disrupt the November election. One of the major races to watch on Election Day will be the Senate contest in Wisconsin. It features a Republican incumbent against the Democrat he defeated to get the job. Correspondent Mike Tobin takes a look.
It's a rematch of 2010 in Wisconsin. That's when political newcomer and businessman Ron Johnson ran as a Republican and knocked an established and well-known Democratic Senator Russ Feingold out of office. Feingold is back, and he's got more than a fighting chance. The polls, in fact, show he's got the advantage.
I think this is a real race. I think it's a competitive race. I think it's anybody's to win or to lose. Ron Johnson has really sort of gotten the motor going. He's up on the air. He's got commercials. He's got presence.
Johnson won in an off-presidential election. In Wisconsin, low turnout often skews conservative. More importantly, he rode the anti-establishment furor that has not abated. So both competitors paint the other as the inside guy who's had his chance and failed. The incumbent calls the challenger Senator Feingold, calls himself Ron.
I am the outsider. Senator Feingold is the ultimate insider, 34-year career politician.
Yeah, well, I don't have to hide my identity. I am proud that I served in the United States Senate.
With control of the Senate up for grabs, outside money is coming in. Not a deluge, but almost $7 million from outside groups. More than $4 million of it anti-Feingold. Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee has delayed an ad campaign in Wisconsin. The spokesman says that's because they're so confident in Feingold's campaign, they can expand the map or spend the money elsewhere. The Republican National Senatorial Committee says the campaign for Johnson will kick in mid-October. Johnson's campaign acknowledges the incumbent is in a fight, even down. That's why he is now barnstorming Wisconsin. He's not getting help from the presidential campaign. Donald Trump does well in the rural parts of the state, but in the primary, Trump did poorly in the population centers of southeast Wisconsin. Johnson needs voter turnout there. In Appleton, Mike Tobin, Fox News.
A federal judge is blocking an Arkansas law preventing state funds from going to Planned Parenthood. The same judge had already issued an injunction in the case of benefits for 3 women. The latest ruling expands that protection to all patients. The state attorney general says the decision will enable Planned Parenthood to, quote, pad its bottom line at taxpayers' expense. Up next, did the U.S. make another major concession to Iran in order to get those 4 hostages back? First, here's what some of our Fox affiliates around the country are covering tonight. Fox 6 in Birmingham, Alabama, as a disciplinary court removes Alabama Chief Justice Roy Moore from the bench. The panel ruled Moore violated ethics by encouraging judges to deny marriage licenses to gay couples. Moore denies his administrative order was an act of defiance. It's the second time the group has removed Moore from the job. Fox 26 in Houston, as nearly 1,200 people are sworn in as U.S. citizens. It happened Thursday in Austin. New Americans come from 92 different countries. That's happening in Texas. There may have been another huge concession from the Obama administration to Iran in order to get a group of Americans released from Iranian custody. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen has that story tonight from the White House.
On the same day in January that the U.S. stealthily paid Iran $400 million in hard foreign currency to settle a dispute over frozen assets, and the Islamic regime set free 5 American hostages, a coincidence of timing many have argued amounted to the payment of ransom, still another deal was being finalized. The Wall Street Journal reports the State Department's Brett McGurk signed an agreement that day allowing the United Nations to lift sanctions 8 years ahead of schedule against Bank SEPA, Iran's oldest and 3rd richest bank, and previously described by the U.S. Treasury Department as the financial linchpin of Iran's ballistic missile program.
They were no longer carrying out actions that we believed were linked to or linked them to the ballistic missile program. We always maintain the ability to reimpose U.S. sanctions on Bank SEPA or any other entity in Iran if we then consider their behavior or merits.
Top administration officials had previously promised Congress there would be no weakening of the UN financial restrictions.
The sanctions on their arms trade, the sanctions on their acquisition of ballistic missile technology remain in place for many years to come under the UN.
More recently, the administration has assured Congress Washington has Iran's missile program well in hand.
We believe that we have both multilaterally and unilaterally the tools necessary to attack that missile program.
But by all accounts, Iran has ramped up the program since the nuclear deal was announced in July 2015, including this launch of a Qatar medium-range missile.
We are already seeing the consequences of this impact. We've already seen 10 separate testing of intercontinental ballistic missiles. Some of these missiles have on the side of them the words in Farsi and in Hebrew, "Death to Israel."
The lead from behind strategy is now paying the kind of dividends many of us warned of. And that is that the United States is no longer shaping events, whether it's in the Middle East with Iran and Syria, whether it's in Asia, whether it's in Europe with Russia.
Aides to the president said they make no excuses for what they called their very considered determination to delist Bank SEPA, even as they acknowledge they continue to have concerns about Iran's ballistic missile program. Brett?
James Rosen live in the North Lawn. James, thank you. The U.S. Navy says a move to drop all 89 of its individual job titles for enlisted sailors is a way to modernize. Most of those job titles ended in man. For example, a chief yeoman will now simply be called a chief. The Navy says this opens up more jobs in the military and gives its personnel more options when they leave. Former President George W. Bush is once again hosting his annual mountain bike ride for wounded veterans. The Warrior 100K features about 20 vets who sustained their injuries fighting in the War on Terror. The ride highlights the bravery and sacrifice of those warriors and recognizes organizations that support America's veterans. Federal investigators are going over information from one of the black boxes in a commuter train that slammed into a transit station yesterday morning in New Jersey. One person was killed and more than 100 injured. Senior correspondent Rick Leventhal has the latest tonight from Hoboken. Good evening, Rick.
Brett, the NTSB just wrapped up a briefing about 40 minutes ago and confirmed that investigators have spoken with all 3 crew members, conducting or scheduling interviews with the brakeman and conductor, but have not yet questioned the engineer. One reason given is that he was hurt in the crash. At least 25 investigators with the National Transportation Safety Board are working the crash of New Jersey Transit Train 1614 at the Hoboken terminal, but had to wait for debris to be cleared before gaining access to the front car. First box was retrieved from the rear locomotive Thursday night and could reveal how fast the train was going when it failed to stop in the station.
That's the question of the hour. Everyone is speculating on this. We don't do that. We're going to wait until we get the actual information.
The agency planned to interview the engineer Friday. 48-year-old Thomas Gallagher has been with New Jersey Transit nearly 30 years, operating trains for 18. He was reportedly found slumped over the controls after the crash and was extricated from the crumpled wreck by first responders. Initially listed in critical condition, Gallagher was treated and released Thursday evening after giving blood and urine samples to investigators.
He was injured, so we wanted to respect that. We'll be interviewing all 3 crew members. We'll also be getting information from all the different organizations that might have information.
Of the 114 hurt, only 16 were still hospitalized as of Friday afternoon. But Brazilian Fabiola Bittar de Kroon did not survive. She moved to America with her husband a year ago and had just dropped the couple's daughter off at daycare. She was on the platform when she was hit by flying debris. The other key question is whether an automatic braking system known as positive train control would have stopped these cars in time.
We have studied hundreds of train crashes in the past, and in many of those cases, positive train control was, the lack of it was a factor and could have prevented it.
Today's weather has not helped investigators who are still waiting to gain access to those passenger cars inside the badly damaged terminal building, but they say the evidence is not perishable, so there's no rush. They say they'll be here 7 to 10 days or as long as it takes. They also say, Brett, they are here to gather evidence and will not speculate as to the cause of the accident.
Rick Leventhal live in Hoboken. Rick, thank you. Rosetta probe has ended its mission tracking a comet by crashing into it. Rosetta executed a slow-motion descent into the icy surface today, ending its 12-year mission. Rosetta sent a lander onto the surface of the comet in November of 2014, a cosmic first. Today, controllers crashed it on purpose because its solar panels would not have provided enough energy to continue that operation. The brand new Fox polls and an increasingly bitter race for president. We'll talk about it all with the panel after a short break.
He finds it a lot easier to insult women than to talk to the president of Mexico about building a wall. Who gets up at 3 o'clock in the morning to engage in a Twitter attack against a former Miss Universe? His latest Twitter meltdown is unhinged, even for him.
I only know him as being a gentleman. He has supported me in my life as a woman, as a mother. I've seen it also with my fellow Miss USA contestants, that they were treated with the utmost respect.
Former Miss Wisconsin there, who knew that this race would be all about beauty queens at some point, but we have focused on that in the race, and you have some new polls. The four-way race has a bit of a change here, and that you see Hillary Clinton up 3, up 2 from early September, and Donald Trump about the same. In the two-way race, there's a bigger move. She gains 4 points and is now up 5, and there you see the margin of error plus or minus 3. Now, was referenced there, but the early morning tweets, and we're talking early morning from Donald Trump, This is at 3:20. Anytime you see a story about me or my campaign saying sources said, do not believe it. There are no sources. They are just made up lies. Then at 5:14, wow, crooked Hillary was duped and used by my worst Miss Universe. Hillary floated her as an angel without checking her past, which is terrible. 5:19, using Alicia M. Machado in the debate as a paragon of virtue just shows that crooked Hillary suffers from bad judgments. Hillary was set up by a con. And then 5:30 a.m. Did crooked Hillary help disgusting checkout sex tape and past Alicia Machado become a U.S. citizen so she could use her in the debate? With that, let's bring in our panel. Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz. Fortune Magazine's Nina Easton. And Charles Lane, opinion writer for The Washington Post. Howie, quite something. I mean, we're on day 3, 4 of this.
I've been thinking about this all day, not since 3 a.m. when the tweet started, but for a lot of hours. And I cannot figure out what Donald Trump gains, especially among women, by continuing to attack Alicia Machado. And now we're into sex tape territory. By the way, it's not a sex tape. It's a scene from a reality show in which she and the actor are under the covers. He has made this story, which Hillary Clinton first brought up in the debate, 1,000 times bigger than it was before. He can't seem to let go of it, and this is part of his familiar pattern of refusing to walk away from fights, even with obscure figures, even when the fight does not benefit him.
Okay, but these polls still pretty tight. Clearly, if you look at who won the debate from our polls, number 9, who won the first debate, Nina, Clinton 61%, Trump 21%. There has been some movement here based on that first debate.
Yeah, and I think that people who responded to the poll that way were right. I mean, she went to this debate eager to bait him, eager to get under his skin. The Miss Universe thing was a very clever trap. She got under his skin.
And it was added very at the end of the debate.
It was almost like, yeah, she
under
knew
the wire.
She had to get it in. She knew she had to get it in. She got it in. She was clearly getting under his skin during the debate, but to watch it kind of percolate all week long, and then he explodes in this Twitter fest this morning. We've already seen in the fascinating Fox polls, by the way, that she gained 7 points with women after the debate. I'm sure that this will also help her with women. What happened today and what the continuing conversation about it. The other thing is she always leads him in that question of who has the temperament to be president. 67% said Hillary Clinton in the poll. Only 37 said Donald Trump. I think that's a question where he'll also be hurt after today.
Yeah, that's Fox News poll 5. Has the temperament to serve effectively as president. 67-31 for Clinton, 59%, 37 say no for Trump. I want to put up the men and women vote preference, the 4-way vote preference here, Fox poll 3. And there you see the breakdown, 32-53. And the movement, you know, Donald Trump, 33% of women, 49% of men. Chuck, when you talk 1 or 2 points in the electoral map in a state, that could shift some of these states that are really in the margin of error, and that path to 270 is a lot easier for her.
Absolutely. And, you know, those are the 2 big gaps that show up in this poll. The one that we discussed already is temperament, and the other is this huge gender gap, right? And you put those 2 together, and you just don't see a good way for Donald Trump to change those things in the next couple of weeks, right? Those are very firmly embedded now in the electorate. And, you know, honestly, I think there's a fundamental problem he's going to face after this tweet storm and after the things where he couldn't let go on Alicia Machado, because the temperament issue, if you go through the other categories as you have in this poll, you see that on the issues, they're actually kind of close.
Yeah.
The temperament thing is blotting out every other aspect of this campaign at this point. And he just seems to be bent on reinforcing it.
But late today in Michigan, focused on, as I mentioned, jobs and trade and the economy, and hitting these issues, taking down regulations, and seemed to get a lot of applause from a big crowd. Howie, there was something that Trump said about the debate that turned out to be true, and that was the microphone problems. Take a listen to him today.
Working that microphone was a hell of a lot more difficult than working crooked Hillary Clinton. When you have a situation like that, and you know it's bad, and you think you have 100 million people watching, what do? Stop the show? Please fix it. It was bad.
And the debate commission put out a statement and said this: regarding the first debate, there were issues regarding Donald Trump's audio that affected the sound level in the debate hall, which was interesting that they added that. But there were microphone issues.
Yeah, well, so Trump had a point on that. He also now is calling the debate rigged because he didn't like the way moderator Lester Holt handled it. I've also said I thought the Holt was much tougher on Hillary Clinton, on Donald Trump, of course, and very easy on Hillary Clinton. But he's also being undercut to some degree, Brett, by his own staff. And he's furious about this, I am told, because some of them described as Trump advisors, unnamed, leaking to the New York Times and others that Trump didn't pay enough attention in the debate prep, that he was erratic in the debate, that he needs to concentrate more for the second debate. That is a sign of a campaign where you've got a lot of finger pointing, people covering their butts, and that sort of thing. But I wouldn't, this race is still very tight. And even though we, as journalists and commentators, look at that debate and say, oh, it didn't go well for him at all, it hasn't opened up a big slide, and I don't expect it to in such a divided country.
Because, Nina, that feeling of anti-establishment, anti-elitist, that this should be a change election is real.
It is real. But one other really interesting factoid in the Fox News polls, we actually now know Hillary haters, so asked, who are you not at all comfortable with as president? So Hillary haters are about 39%, and Trump haters are about 47%. That means 47% say they would not at all be comfortable with Donald Trump as president. 39% said they would not at all be comfortable with Hillary Clinton as president. That's just a number to keep in mind going forward about that core, those holdouts from each of those candidates.
Last thing, Chuck, quickly, about Doug McKelway's piece and what Hillary Clinton said during all those scandals in the 90s about all of these various women. Do we think that this is going to be a subject?
It's all up to Donald Trump. That's his opposition research. He's claimed to have been a gentleman and refrained from putting it out there in the last debate. Based on how angry he seemed the last couple days, I wouldn't be surprised if he plays that card.
It's already getting media coverage.
Already getting
yes.
it, yeah. Pretty much every channel has done something similar. Next up, the Friday Lightning Round.
Countries like Russia and China and Iran are not our friends, and their interests are not our interests. You look at the influence of foreign governments within ICANN. It should give us greater and greater concern.
The transition to ICANN doesn't strengthen the role of Russia and China and Iran in any central function of the internet. In fact, making this transition to a private entity is the best way to prevent Russia and others from being successful in their argument that it should instead be transitioned to the UN.
Hey, there I am. We did that last night. Welcome to the Friday Lightning Round. That is the Internet Corporation for Assigned Names and Numbers, ICANN. It transfers tomorrow. We're back with the panel. This gets complicated, but there are people like Senator Cruz, a list of Republicans, actually, it's not just him, who have a real problem with this, Howie. And you heard Senator Coons there saying this is an effort to internationalize, but also it is a private sector nonprofit, and there shouldn't be this ominous overview of it. What about this?
I understand the concern, and it plays well politically. I'm not wild about the U.S. surrendering control of Internet names, and countries like China or Russia may be having more of a say potentially. But you look back on it, it's unrealistic to think that America could maintain a monopoly on this forever. And in fact, this transition has been in the works for 2 decades.
Nina.
Well, I think there's real concern about it, legitimate concern, and actually some state attorney generals are trying to bring an action on it. There's real concern about the United States, which believes in free internet access, ceding control to a world in which a Freedom House study showed 28% are completely control their internet, 29% don't control it at all, and the rest are somewhere in between. So it's not just China and Russia and stuff. There's a lot of countries that have controls of various measures on there. So I think and this is controlling domain names. This means like foxnews.com.
But .mil and .gov too.
It could be, stolen, used, abused. So I think there's, and before this happened, there was Commerce. Our Commerce Department had oversight over that. We lose that now.
The supporters say the rest of the world was getting antsy, that we were controlling it, but. The people who have a problem with this say this is the camel nose under the tent.
Yes, and we will find out soon enough how far under the tent the camel's nose has gotten, because it's sound in theory to say it's all being turned over to the private sector. But the issue is, in a lot of these countries, particularly China, private sector companies are not truly private sector. They've got Communist Party or government backing behind them, and it's going to be on the U.S. private sector and Western European private sector to act as a check on them.
All right, quickly down the row about a preview of the VP debate. I don't think anybody's looking at it as a barn burner, but who knows?
It's bland versus bland, I guess. But what I expect to see happen is both of them turning the whole thing around into a discussion of the principles on the respective tickets. Mike Pence is going to go after Hillary Clinton, and Tim Kaine is going to go after Donald Trump. And I expect Tim Kaine especially to try and shame Mike Pence, you know, as a conventional Republican politician, shaming him for having agreed to go on this ticket with someone like Donald Trump.
Could we get some policy in there someplace?
I was going to say, I think this is going to be heavy on policy. Are we going to get 85 million viewers, 85 million viewers? Don't think so. I think it's going to be cool, calm, collected. Not a lot of sparks are going to fly. And yeah, a lot of policy.
Quickly. I think the reason we've been so little focus on this is not just because of the crazy race at the top of the ticket, but because Trump and Clinton made good choices. Tim Kaine and Mike Pence are widely seen as very qualified for VP, or if they have to move up to the top job. Therefore, there isn't the debate we often see about could this person be a heartbeat away.
We'll see. All right, quickly, winners and losers. Winner first.
Oh, Alicia Machado. Nobody had ever heard of this former Miss America. Now she's been all over TV. She's been attacked by Donald Trump.
Miss Universe.
She's a household name. Miss Universe, excuse me. And she's a household name, and perhaps she gets a reality show out of it. My loser, or go ahead. Loser, Howard Dean, the former presidential candidate, a doctor, ex-governor, ex-party chairman, made the ludicrous and despicable charge against Donald Trump that, well, he might just be a cocaine user because he was sniffling during the debate. It took him days, but the MSNBC contributor has now finally apologized today.
The Trump people insinuate that it was the microphone that picked up his heavy breathing, but go ahead.
So my winner is UK Prime Minister Theresa May. There was actually a report that came out that the British economy was doing better than expected post-Brexit. And so I think this gives her a lot of running room as she tries to manage this sticky divorce from the EU going forward. My loser is Libertarian candidate Gary Johnson. We saw last week, he didn't know what Aleppo was. This week, he was asked by Chris Matthews just to name a foreign leader he admires, any dead, alive, you know, this continent, that continent, any couldn't. So I think this is going to be fodder. Just watch. I think these are going to be Hillary Clinton PAC ads used against him to drive down those numbers, because she does better on a one-on-one match with Trump.
Right. Winner and loser.
Well, with my usual keen grasp of the obvious, I went for my winner being Hillary Clinton and my loser being Donald Trump, for the obvious reason, Monday's debate, where Trump really, although he came out fairly steady in the first 30 minutes, kind of melted down thereafter. And as our polls show tonight, she really capitalized.
Okay, panel, up next, your Friday feedback. It's time for your Friday feedback. During our coverage of the presidential race, we asked if Donald Trump should stop talking about a former Miss Universe winner and her weight gain. Not surprisingly, Scott at Read and Learn tweets yes. The sooner he stops talking about how fat Miss Universe was and talks about how much fat is in the federal budget, the better. Jake agrees, absolutely, yes. If he just focused more on his message rather than tweeting, he'd be winning. But Timothy disagrees on Facebook. No, he shouldn't. This is an unusual election cycle, and by God, he needs to keep it unusual. We asked if you think most voters have already made up their minds. Albert at Beto 10 Cafetero says yes, greater than 5% undecided, but likely have a leaning. Race pretty locked based on recent polling. Doxy 99 says no, there are many on the fence. We asked whether Donald Trump should bring up the Clinton sex scandals. Tina Holland says that's a stupid question. He should have attacked her with it in the last debate. From 8644, no. Stick to issues that matter: economy, jobs, taxes, immigration, etc. And during our story about Syrian refugees, we asked whether the U.S. should continue to accept Syrian refugees. Anna Cornyn tweets, no. We need to take care of the legal Americans in our country. Let's get our country fixed and prospering again first. And from Buck Smith, as long as the war in Syria continues, yes. And that is our Friday feedback from you. Thanks for inviting us into your home tonight. That is it for this special report. Fair, balanced, and unafraid. Don't forget, until the election, just after the election. Special report Sunday, 8 p.m. Don't miss that. On the Record with Brit Hume starts in 4 seconds.